Hey, aloha everyone. Thank you for being here, and I'm so honored to be joined by my esteemed panelists from Secretary of State from Nevada, New Hampshire Representative Ammon, and Representative Vanessa Grossl from Kentucky, and Ms. Debra Brookes, who is the Risk and Compliance Officer, or Commissioner, am I correct, for the Wyoming Stable Token Commission.
Not a commissioner.
Sorry, officer. Thank you all for coming today. Just to kick it off, I think one of the most exciting things, at least for me, I used to serve as economic development specialist for the state of Hawaii, managing a regulatory program for crypto exchanges that wanted to do business in Hawaii. So one of the exciting things I've seen so far is the strategic Bitcoin reserve bill that passed for New Hampshire. So congratulations, Representative. Do you want to just comment a little bit about it before we move on?
Yeah, so about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we filed the bill in November, but 2 or 3 weeks ago, we got it to the governor's desk and we had a little signing ceremony, and we were the first state to enable a Bitcoin strategic reserve. And now it's up to our treasurer to implement it after the bill goes live. It'll be live in about a month. So it was exciting. It was exciting to be first.
Well, we have a lot of other winners in the room as well that have done a lot of exciting things for their respective states. So perhaps, Secretary, do you want to start and just share what Nevada has been up to?
Yes, thank you. It's good to see all of you. The Secretary of State's office is truly a technology company. Everything we do, from elections to corporate filings to securities regulations, is based on the technology that we have to do the job that we do. And so it's our responsibility to find the most innovative technology. We say, our office is focused on modernization, innovation, and transparency, because if you build trust with the taxpayer, they're going to have trust in government, but you have to build those efficiencies into the process. And one of the things we've done is use blockchain to build that efficiency, to build that transparency. We oversee domestic partnerships. All of our domestic partnership filings are on blockchain. And most recently, with the election results, we have to submit a traditional paper document to the National Archives. But more recently, the federal government passed a law requiring us to do a second validator of those traditional paper documents. And in order to do that, to verify that the paper documents are accurate, we filed the election results on blockchain, and we're the first state, we're the first group to do that. And when we originally sent it to the National Archives, they said, you can't do this. And the reason they said that is because they didn't understand the process. And so we had to sit there and explain to them, well, this is how blockchain works. This is how it validates the original papers that we are sending you. And then they were like, got it, understood, thank you, this is great.
Representative Grossl, you want to share what's happening in Kentucky?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's actually, I was elected in November, so this has been my first session. And we established as a state our blockchain technology work group in 2020. And so a couple of preliminary things took place earlier on in 2021. Most notably, Kentucky's a huge energy producer. We're a big coal state in the Appalachian Mountains, much like West Virginia and Wyoming and other states like that. And so we wanted to incentivize folks to come in and utilize some of our coal mines. And so we eliminated tax on electricity for crypto mining back then. This session, we passed House Bill 701. It's essentially our Bill of Rights for Bitcoiners, and it does a number of things. I don't know if I can remember them all, so I've got a little note here. First and foremost, a lot of definitions on everything around NFTs and all sorts of different tokens, digital assets, and things like digital wallets. I used to work for a digital wallet company before I was elected to the legislature, so I was really glad to see that, because I really want to see Kentucky be more innovative in the way we do business overall. I think we're working toward creating this welcoming environment for business and industry to invest in our state. So the Bill of Rights for Bitcoiners, it also allows folks, businesses, or individuals to accept digital assets as payment without having to pay any additional taxes. It promotes the adoption of nodes and stacking services and offers legal protections for people operating in those spaces. And it reduces unnecessary licensing burdens. And then, another interesting part is that it prohibits zoning changes that would discriminate against digital mining operations. And so, all that said, I think consumer protection is a big part of what we care about as well, but we certainly want to welcome and innovate in our state.
Ms. Brookes?
Hi, thank you for inviting me to speak here today. And before I begin, I just want to add the disclaimer that the opinions I have are my own and not necessarily reflecting the commissioners or the executive director or the members of the Wyoming Stable Token team. Well, I really want to think of it in a very unique way because I am now a part of an innovative group, but my previous position, I was part of a regulatory body. I actually worked at the New York State Department of Financial Services at its deputy virtual currency chief and head of supervision. And I supervised the 30 or so licensed entities. So I'm going from regulator to innovator in Wyoming. And Wyoming has been very innovative for many years, enacting over 40 pieces of legislation, among them including DAOs, and also First Amendment right protections against giving away your private keys. And the culmination resulted in the passage of the Wyoming Stable Token Act of 2023, whereby Wyoming has given the commission the authority to issue a fiat-backed stable token, but it's not a CBDC. So and I just really want to align how special the commissioners are. The head of the commission is Governor Mark Gordon himself, followed by other elected officials. We also have 4 subject matter experts. That includes the former general counsel of Circle, which is, as you know, the issuer of USDC that actually went public, I believe, last week. So myself, I think I'm employee number 3 that was hired to help build this wonderful product. And what's great about Wyoming is we are transparent. If you go on our website, you will see all of our meetings. They're public. Information is public. We have launched on, I believe, 7 test nets in March. And our plan is to, and we're still on target, to launch in October. And, since we like to be first, the state of Wyoming, when we launch our stable token, we'll be the first government to issue a stable token, which is going to be very different from every other stablecoin issuer presently because all of them are private and we are government. So thank you.
Thank you. Maybe if we could just expound on that a little bit. Like, what is the vision? What is the state government of Wyoming trying to achieve with this project?
Well, I kind of take the view, start local, think global. I think most people are thinking that the Wyoming stable token, what sits in the wild, if you will, is relegated or limited to the 4 corners, if you will, of the Wyoming borders. That is not the case. As we all know, stable tokens could go anywhere and everywhere, and we have been anticipating that particular move. We are very excited about and seeing many different use cases. We've been collaborating with other states. We've been in discussions with other states about how do we use it. Can we do like a stable coin as a service scenarios? We are discussing possibly some type of relationship with other jurisdictions to just get other states excited about Wyoming. Maybe even my home state of New York might be interested and kind of get off the regulatory hat and kind of join the innovation side for once.
So that's a really great segue into the next question. Kind of, at least in when I was back with the state government in Hawaii, we used to talk very regularly to other state departments in terms of what they were thinking about cryptocurrencies. Maybe if any of you would share, what are some of the efforts of your state that have, in terms of into cooperation with other states to formulate bills or legislation within your state? Yep.
Me?
Yes, Secretary, thank you.
It's looking at how other states are being innovative, Wyoming, Kentucky, New Hampshire, and saying what is it that we can do for our own citizens and our own taxpayers. One thing we really tried to do this session was Nevada and small business owners spend about $6 million a year in my office on credit card fees to process payments. That's a significant amount of money when you think about it, especially when you're talking about a startup company or an entrepreneur. And I thought, what is it we can do? So we introduced a bill to create our own bank within the Secretary of State's office to process nothing but payments. And if we could do stable coin or we can accept alternative forms of payment, that'll bring down that fee structure and be able to allow these individuals to save significant money. And that's building trust with your citizens. It's building trust in government. You're building efficiencies, but it only depends on new types of technology. And so unfortunately, the bill didn't pass because it made the legislature a bit nervous because they truly didn't understand the technology. And that's our fault. We didn't spend enough time educating folks to understand what this meant and how it's being implemented. It is not scary, it's proven, it's trusted, and it's completely transparent, which is a big thing, I think, in government.
Representative?
Yeah, so New Hampshire's been first in a lot of areas. We had the first presidential primary. We had the Bretton Woods Accord, which created the IMF and the World Bank. That happened in New Hampshire. We had the first credit union. We had the first state lottery. So New Hampshire has a history. First public library that was publicly funded. New Hampshire has a history of, being a laboratory of innovation. So I'm in my 5th term in the state legislature. I've been the crazy legislator pushing Bitcoin since 2015. So that's how far back it goes. And it's so exciting to see it become mainstream all this time. So in that time, we've done some things like implement the UCC Article 12, what has to do with digital assets. We created DAO, legal personhood, similar to Wyoming, but we took a little different approach. We mentioned the strategic Bitcoin reserve, some other exemptions from our securities laws. So the biggest challenge, as you just mentioned, is educating the legislature, because in our state, every 2 years, we get 1/3 of the legislature turns over. So now you have, and we have one of the largest bodies in New Hampshire. We have 400 state reps. It's almost as large as Congress. And we get paid $100 a year. So it is truly a citizens' legislature. And in order to, it's 133 people or more every 2 years that we have to kind of bring up to speed. But, I think CoinDesk just had an opinion piece. They ranked us above Wyoming, which was amazing. But you guys are going to catch up.
Yeah, we saw that.
Yeah, it's a friendly competition.
Is there a CoinDesk representative here?
Was it the study by ASIC that was published in? Yeah, I have the rankings here. We can get into that, but maybe not. Okay. Yeah. How about Representative Grossl? What are your thoughts about intercooperation among states?
Yeah, I'm always looking at Wyoming, Arizona. I really love what you've done with the elections, and what you just shared reminded me that I didn't tell you all earlier. An additional thing we did this year in Kentucky is that we allowed our state investment commission for the first time to use any type of excess state resources and convert them into digital assets. I think we scared them by passing that bill. I don't think they've actually done any of it yet, but I'm hopeful we'll get there. And I just think that we're such a heavy manufacturing state. We have the largest Toyota plant in the world in Kentucky. And so supply chains are very important to us. We have our state Make Kentucky Healthy Again task force. So agriculture, local food, we do so much horse breeding and all of that people would love to track, the parenthood and all of that of those foals. So there are so many use cases. We just have to educate and have our population be aware of the value of really bringing this into our state.
Thank you. So I think, with all the federal, work that's being done now in the regulation, I think my question is, what unique opportunities actually exist at a state level where you feel like you're free to carve out the types of regulation you need for blockchain innovation in your state without, the federal regulations hampering you?
Well, I can start with this one just briefly. I believe truly that the states are laboratories of democracy, and Congress takes forever to act, and I think that as much as we can act and get out in front and prove that the things we're doing are working and are good solutions, it's going to lay that foundation for Congress to say, okay, here are some examples, and this is why we could do this nationally. I think we all have to get on the same page about this, as so many others have said today, and the more we share ideas and learn from one another, the more we're paving the way for that.
Secretary, any comments?
Nevada is a small state, but we have a strong presence. We have built the gaming industry. We have built transparency within it. We have used technology. And to be able to take that technology and to be able to take that fortitude that we have in Nevada to continue to push forward, we can get things done because of the fact that we are a small state and people are willing to take risk if they know that it's going to make Nevada even more dependent than being reliant on the federal government.
Ms. Brookes, any thoughts on that?
Well, knowing that Wyoming has its first, Senator Lomas said a lot of firsts this morning that I don't need to repeat, but particularly Wyoming has been an incubator and an innovator, particularly in this field, while the federal government is still trying to figure out although they're getting very close, but 16 years after the issuance of the first Bitcoin, we don't have a regulatory framework in the United States, and that's troubling and frightening because there is just so much regulatory uncertainty, and clarity is most desperately needed. But certain that, I think the states, including my home state of New York and Wyoming in particular, and in the states here, have been leading the charge in really developing protocols, regulatory regimes, innovative products, protections. Consumer protection is a big deal. I think every state wants to make sure that their citizens don't get scammed, because they are getting scammed, and the criminals are more sophisticated now, and with the introduction of AI, the spam emails that you see are not riddled with grammatical errors anymore, so you almost really have to be mindful of what you're getting. So I think putting all that together, seeing that the states have been leading the charge, and I think the states have been helping in a way because of the innovative approaches with the new ideas, the implementation of the DAOs, that has inspired the federal government to get off its duff, if you will, and enact something. Hopefully we'll have a stable coin framework in place by the end of this year, fingers crossed.
Yeah, Representative.
So we have a dual banking system in this country. So states can charter banks and the federal government can charter banks. The Genius Act has a $10 billion cap in it that it kind of respects states' ability to charter. So we'll see if there's any challenges to that if the bill does in fact pass. I just want to say, just use this opportunity, our state's motto is live free or die, right? And there's a lot of safety-ism in this community where we're worried about bad actors, and that's a good thing. We want to worry about bad actors. We're worried about consumer protection. We should be. But the strength of the United States comes from individual sovereignty. That's why the United States is the most powerful country in the world. And states that respect that, right? And I just think we need to just remember the original ethos of this space, that it has to do with empowering the individual. It doesn't, we have to be careful of not building a trap that will be a surveillance tool and a way to micromanage people. We want power to leave this jurisdiction, Washington, D.C., and return it back to the individual states and the individuals, not round everybody up to have, be controlled by, I call it Mordor here. So that's just my personal opinion. But live free or die is kind of the ethos that I think we should at least preserve some small granule of it.
So I actually really like what Representative Grossl said about states being the kind of incubators for innovation. At least based on my experience, we tried and we failed in Hawaii. I think a lot of the biggest reason was we were looking to federal for guidance. What are some of the, we talked about opportunities on the state level, but what are the challenges that you're seeing? Secretary, you want to take that?
Yeah, I think it's having individuals who understand how to take a risk, right? I come from the private sector. This is my first elected office, and I'm not afraid to take that risk and be innovative and figure out where are new ideas. We have to figure out how to connect government directly to the people. And the way we're going to do that is through technology. And if people can feel the government is working for them, saving them money, saving them time, giving them opportunity, innovation is no longer going to be a question, it's going to be the expectation.
Nicely said. Representative?
Just to follow up on that, I mean, our state has a way to go on this, but blockchain has the ability to bring transparency to government and accountability to government, right? So the government does a lot of things in the shadows. We had the Doges finding things, and they're kind of ineffective at uprooting it, and blockchain is a way to make the government more opaque to the people. And I think as it grows and is adopted in government, that'll be a good thing for the average citizen.
Any comments?
For me, I think that the private sector is ready for this. They're ready for supply chain management, and the healthcare sector is ready for it. We just have to make sure that we're open enough to put those frameworks in place to empower them in our state and not drive them out.
Ms. Brookes, any thoughts on that?
Well, not being the only non-elected official on the panel, I see it very uniquely in the sense of ensuring that we have that communication between the state and federal government. I worked as a federal prosecutor for 15 years with the DOJ. I worked at DFS for 10 years. I'm now with the Wyoming Stable Token Commission, so I understand the lack of communications between the federal and the state. Oftentimes, I think transparency is very important, particularly in the state of Wyoming. They really take transparency to heart, particularly where certain things I'm used to not having available, we have to make it available by law, and everything is recorded. So our process is public, and I think that inspires confidence, but what also is educating people really, and I spoke recently at an event in New York City, and it's really educating people to understand what the blockchain is, what is cryptocurrency, and really simplify it in a way, and I used a term like CAT spells C-A-T, really getting down to that base level and explaining it to individuals what the blockchain is in a simple level. I have many hats, and one of them is Girl Scout troop leader. And I have sat down with my girls, and they're high school girls, and I explained to them what the cryptocurrency is and what the blockchain is, and they understood it. So I figure if I can teach a bunch of teenage girls who do not want to be taught anything by an adult, I think we can teach the masses, representatives, on what is a blockchain, what is cryptocurrency, what is this talk about genius, what is this talk about stable, why is this such a great thing? Because I think that's the challenge we're having. It's what is it, and why is everybody so excited about it? Because, we're in this room, and I think everyone here is excited about it and knows, because we all have a base understanding. But I guarantee if you walk across the street and said Bitcoin, you'd probably say, yeah, I've heard of it, but I'm somewhat interested, but what is it? So I think it's education is really important. And we're doing that right now in Wyoming, where we are actually going out and having those discussions with our representatives, with key members of the executive staff, and with the population of Wyoming, because as the citizens of Wyoming is supporting this initiative. Thanks.
Well said. Secretary, do you want to share something?
No, in the grand scheme of things of what we're doing in Nevada with blockchain and submitting our election results to our domestic partnership certificates, it's incremental change, and it's the conversation of the term and showing that you can get to bigger. I would love to put the entire office on blockchain, but you have to create change incrementally to get people comfortable, and that's what I think we're all doing up here.
So with Nevada, you're starting with the elections.
We started
election.
We started originally with the kind of the domestic partnership certificates and application process, and then moving that into the elections, which I thought when I did that, there would be this massive news story about the fact that we did it, and nobody really cared. But in the end, it's getting people to understand that government can work in an efficient, transparent, and innovative way.
So maybe just to wrap up the conversation today, you're doing a lot of great things for your state. What are some of the, state level accomplishments you have here that you think can be translated into national level action? Representative Keith, Ammon?
I mean, that's a great question. The supremacy clause gets cited a lot, but it really only means what's written in the Constitution is supreme, right? It doesn't mean everything is supreme. So what I really like about what Wyoming is doing is they're using their state sovereignty as sort of like a wrapper for treasuries or US dollar-backed stablecoin. That's a really innovative thing that they're doing, because the states are sort of like the umbrella to protect the citizens of that state from any overreach by the federal government. So I think that's a great thing that they're doing. We'll see how it works out. I don't know if we could do that in New Hampshire just yet, but that's a great experiment that they're doing.
But we do the state of Wyoming does take sovereignty extremely seriously, and noticing that the Genius Act is out. I mean, again, this is my opinion, and the commission has not taken an official position, but in my view, the Genius Act, we don't believe applies to us as a sovereign state. Although we are monitoring the Genius Act, we will abide by many of the rules within Genius, but I think at least in the initial phase, we are taking, at least in my opinion, the view that the Genius Act does not apply to us, because the act is targeting and focusing on private stable coin issuers, not government.
So Representative Grossl, any last words before we end the conversation today?
I'm excited. Today has been just amazing to be with all of you and learn with all of you. And we do so much background checking and at the state level and to verify benefits, for people. And I just see so much that we could do if we're brave and are willing to be courageous. And I think, getting it wrong, in my opinion, is okay, as long as we learn the lesson and just keep innovating and just keep moving forward. I think it's worth the risk, and so I look forward to what's ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
For those who are interested in state-based blockchain regulation and activity, there is a roundtable tomorrow at 11 o'clock or 11:30. Don't quote me on that. Do your own research, as we call it. But definitely join us to learn more about what the states are doing, in terms of blockchain innovation. Thank you.
Thank you.